Thank you, PJ. It is time for another edition of the Pair and a Spare podcast. I'm Justin Gaard from The Fan. We've got Chip Scoggins from the Minnesota Star-Tribune and Football Across Minnesota, which we'll talk about today, and Ryan Burns from GopherIllustrated.com, who is already testy. We haven't even hit record. And the youngest one in the chat, Chipper, comes in and is the grumpiest. Well, how does that make any sense?
He came in. All you have to say is night games, and it's just like lighting a fuse. He just goes off, right? His head explodes.
To be fair, I joined this call, and all I heard was Guardsy saying, Ryan gets disgusted about this. And I'm like, all right, that's a lot of things in my life at this point. I'm an old cranky man, but what are we talking about specifically here?
Yeah, and it set you down the path. My kids' activities always send you down a spiral of negativity. And I'll tell you this, Burnsie, and I've told you this before, I'm one of the conservative parents. Believe me, we are not doing nearly as much as some of the other families in our block and our neighborhood. I'm not saying it's not crazy, but I'm just saying we are trying to have a normal – I'll say it to you this way. My kid only plays hockey in the morning once a week. He doesn't do it twice. All right? He doesn't do it twice like some other – and 3 times and 4 times like some other families out here in the West Metro do.
Don't get me started about the youth sports money grab phenomena. I feel for you immensely, as I've told you so many times before.
Yeah, we do. We have a good vetting process in the Guardsy household. Even though I was never covered by the Minnesota Star-Tribune, I was not covered as one of the great athletes of the 2001 class.
What was the newspaper? I forget.
You just missed it. You just missed it.
Larry Fitzgerald, Marion Barber, and Joe Mauer were the athletes of my class. They chose to feature for some reason. So I wasn't featured, but I did go through this myself as a young buck. So I like to think I have some experience on what not to do. But anyway, that's not what this podcast is for. This podcast is for college football. The Gophers were on a bye this last week. And I'll say this, with both the Vikings loss to the Falcons and the Gophers loss to Cal, neither of those aged very well because neither of the opponents that beat the Gophers or Vikings scored a point in their next game. So, Burnsie, because you're the cranky one, we'll start with you. How has the aging of the Cal loss hit you after that 34 donut loss to one of your favorite teams, San Diego State, the Aztecs? On the road, at least, the Aztecs.
Well, I could see Brian Dutcher was on the sidelines doing a great job the entire time, and I don't know why the Dunkers don't want to bring him back as the next Gopher basketball coach in 2033, whenever that is. Yeah, apparently Danny Collins gave some heck of a scout to San Diego State to make the Cal quarterback complete 44% of his throws, multiple defensive touchdowns in there. What's that about against an FBS opponent? It was an odd week in college football, which that's the beauty of 18 to 23-year-olds. You never know what you're going to get.
What'd you think, Chip? I doubt you stayed up to watch.
I saw this
10-0, but I was texting Burnsie because I knew you'd be sleeping. I'm like, this is not good.
Yeah, I didn't stay up and watch it. Obviously it makes the loss look worse, but I do say this. You get in trouble when you start comparing scores in college football.
Transitive property in college football is just something you can't.
Yeah, if you get caught up in that, it'll bite you. Not saying, it's still, as I'll reiterate what I said last week, it was a poor performance, but we get caught up in that a lot. Well, this team beat that team and that team beat that team, so we must be better. Well, college football is so weird. Week to week, obviously Cal played horribly, and as we saw with the Vikings games, and I think PJ stressed yesterday in his Monday in his press conference, turnovers, man. It just swings so many games. But it's not surprising. The Cal guy's still a young quarterback, right? He's going to have some stinkers in there, Yep. So,
I wonder how much too is Cal approached that Minnesota game almost like their Super Bowl Big Ten team coming to town, and then they had to go on the road. Now, on the road from San Francisco to San Diego isn't exactly a haul, but it's another post 9 p.m. kickoff. It's a lazy one on the road, and they just laid an egg.
I just think if you're not a great team, and I don't think Cal's a great team. They played a good ball game against the Gophers, but I don't think anybody say that's a great team. If you don't show up and play, that's going to happen, right? If you play sloppy, it's going to happen to you.
Yep, exactly.
I still think Cal team's going to win 8-9 games this year.
Their schedule's favorable for sure when you look at it.
Correct. And I don't think the ACC outside of a couple teams is great, but Not a great way to go into the bye week with a loss and then watch the team you lost to get donutted by the Fighting Sean Lewises.
So now Rutgers comes to town, 11 o'clock kick, 9 a.m. pregame on the Fan. And
look at him rubbing his hands for the Narrative Street. Here we go. Get it out. Get it off your chest.
Speaking of Super Bowls, all right, you want to do the narratives first, Burnsie, or do you want to actually talk about like what we saw from Rutgers Friday night against Iowa, where it was an offensive explosion in the first half, and then it was kind of some classic Iowa stuff in the fourth quarter to steal that victory in Piscataway. What do you want to do first, Ryan? Because this is your week. Which is surprising why you came in so cranky. This is your week. You've been waiting since we got this schedule, I think, in late spring, that this is the week you wanted to talk about.
Well, give me a moment here to put on my penny loafers as I start to do one of those old-timey cartoon strolls down the street with Rob Smith making his bated breath return to Huntington Bank Stadium, where we last saw him get 40, I think it was 53 points that Iowa put up on him in 2018. He also had Illinois. I mean, he got fired midseason for a reason. He makes his return, and I still have no idea how he is continuing to be a Power 4 defensive coordinator because he gets fired after 2 years everywhere he goes. Kirk Ciarrocca makes his return after leaving twice. Ethan Kaliakmanis makes his return. You think about that 2017 Gopher football staff and PJ Fleck's first season. Kirk Ciarrocca and Rob Smith were the two coordinators. Well, I believe across the hall, the way I understand it, are the quality control guys. There were 3 guys on that staff. It was Greg Harbaugh, who's now the offensive coordinator, Danny Collins, who's now the defensive coordinator, and this young man now out at Michigan State by the name of Joe Rossi.
Yeah.
So that was a heck of a staff back in the day. And now they get to go against one another. That's where last year Fleck really didn't acknowledge all of that. And we can talk about if that actually spun Minnesota up, if that just happened to be the way the game played out. I'll say this, Fleck talked about it yesterday more than he did last year. It's clear that he doesn't want to blow this out of proportion, and I get it because he's the Mr. Let's keep the noise on the outside and let's keep the main thing on the inside. It's just when Kirk Ciarrocca now returns wearing a Rutgers polo, same thing with Rob Smith, same thing with Ethan. Last time we saw him, he was getting booed off against Wisconsin at Huntington Bank Stadium. It's tough for me. You have to acknowledge it, not blow it out of proportion, but you also have to acknowledge that we're all human beings. And while this game counts the same as any other of the 12, I can assure you that everybody on both sides of their staffs, Rutgers and Minnesota, are going to be watching each other's press conferences and seeing what each other says about one another. We're human beings and emotion is part of this. It's even yesterday when Fleck says, well, Ethan's been in the system now for 5 years. Well, my quarterback dad show is going to one day get a launch on Netflix, and that's where Ethan Kaliakmanis' father then has to clap back on Twitter and say, well, technically he's only been in the just that's my point.
Oh, did he clap back on Twitter?
Yes, because
oh my goodness,
parents can't resist. It's just you can't resist.
Put the phones down, guys.
Food. Yeah,
put the phones down.
It's something to note for Saturday where Ethan's coming in red hot, and we can talk about that. But this whole game on both sides, they want to probably win it 10 to 15% more than they do in a normal game, even though it counts the same. That's all my point is.
Well, and you know how PJ feels about Greg Schiano too. I mean, obviously,
yes,
their relationship, you don't want to lose to
their
him.
Their relationship going from Schiano giving him his first Power 4 job to now, I don't know that they're on the best of terms, even though neither of them will say that publicly. It's connections everywhere. It is what it is.
If you just keep stealing coaches, I mean,
that's it. Yeah,
that's not going to be the best all the time. I know there's no friends and blood in war, or whatever they say, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I was. We were all texting during the game. My takeaways, and I dug into some. I actually did some homework today. This morning before we came on here. Yeah,
thank you for caring about the podcast that you created. That was your idea. Thank you.
I normally just flip it on and wing it. So, but two things. I mean, the things I text you guys the other night is you've got to be able to run on that defense. And I looked at their stats. Rutgers has given up 5.14 yards per carry, which ranks 120th nationally. Obviously, Darius Taylor, his status, you'll find out 2 hours before the kick off there, Burnsie.
Yep.
But they've got to be able to run the ball against him. I mean, they absolutely do. That's not a good defense. And on the flip side, I like their wide receivers a lot. Those guys are big. Athan's, throwing the ball and spreading it to those guys. And I looked it up. They don't have a ton of explosives if you count 10-yard passes to 19-yard passes. So 10 to 19. That's, I don't know if you call explosive more than 20, but 10 to 19. They rank third in the country in number of those, 55 already in 4 games. So basically, what's that, 14 a game? So they're getting 14 completions of 10 to 19-yard passes.
Those are chunks.
And those receivers are big and physical and good. So I think Gophers have to be able to run the ball. And, whoever that is, we were talking about it in our text chain. I don't know if it's, if they're down to their third guy or what, but they've got to be able to run the ball.
Athan is playing at a really, really high level. And I know a lot of Gopher fans don't want to hear that. But I think this is what we saw the upside being. And it wasn't there 2 years ago when he became the guy for a multitude of different reasons. I think he's matured more. I think just 5th year in a system.
Third year.
Alex Kaliak-Manis agrees with me on that. It's an RPO type of system, even though Harbaugh's wasn't a perfect one for one back then. Athan is currently, according to Pro Football Focus, the highest graded passing grade quarterback in the country. You mentioned the chunk plays, Chip. There is not another Power 2 offense that has thrown more deep balls. Now, deep balls defined as 20-plus yard throws than Kirk Shiraka and Athan Kaliak-Manis. And if I had those 2 6'4" gazelles, I'd throw everything to them. Mm-hmm. And those guys on Friday night against Iowa had more contested catch wins than Minnesota's receiving core combined does through 3 games.
It'll be interesting.
Outstanding 50-50 ball winners.
Yeah, I apologize for that. It'll be interesting to see what Danny does, because go back to last year, and I think we were all screaming you're probably screaming on the sideline in the press box, that screen on TV, is like, put some pressure on him. I mean, they just sat back and let him get into a rhythm that first half. It's like it was a weird game plan. And so this is where you need Anthony Smith, Jah Joyner, Devin Easter. I mean, those guys need to be wreckers.
It'd be great to have Jah Joyner back.
I mean, sorry, Logan Redding.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jah Joyner would be great too. Logan Redding.
Wrong media guide in your homework.
That's right. Yeah, Logan Redding, Anthony Smith, Devin. Those guys need to be wreckers, right? They need to be able to get pressure on Athan and make him uncomfortable, and because we've seen that before, right? I mean, if he sits back there and he gets comfortable and he can throw it to those big receivers, he can get into a rhythm and hurt you.
Yeah, those catches on that last touchdown drive that they had were impressive. That was the one where I called you Daniel House because you said these receivers are going to be a problem. Calm down, House. But
I did my house homework tonight, man, or today.
Yeah, they that was impressive because they went right down the field on their last touchdown drive.
Yeah.
They ended up throwing a pick a little bit later, and we'll talk about kind of the last Iowa drive or second to last Iowa drive that gave them the lead. But yeah, that was definitely impressive, and it appears that's a strength of theirs, right, Burnsie, that you got to pay attention to.
Yeah, I think you got to give Kirk Shiraka some credit. And there's a reason why Minnesota brought him back. It's a reason why PJ Fleck had him as an offensive coordinator for 8 years between Western Michigan and Minnesota. When this thing is humming, it's humming. When you have the skill guys that they have at Rutgers right now, and you have a quarterback who's a senior, has seen a lot, is playing largely really, really well, this thing can go. And I think Kirk Shiraka knows a lot about how Minnesota is probably going to want to game plan him. The thing I would say is we need to see Danny Collins adjust quicker. The 2 things, and you harped on them, Chip, would be I would consistently try to change the picture for Athan Kaliak-Manis. Show one thing pre-snap, change it post-snap. The more Athan Kaliak-Manis is thinking, and you saw that as the game went on, as Phil Parker and the Iowa defense adjusted in the second half, that's where more errant throws came. If I'm the Gopher defensive line and I can't get pressure, I'm getting my hands in the passing lane immediately because that ball is coming out quick. It's coming out hot. And any deflected ones like you saw Harrison Smith for the Vikings on Saturday, deflected balls are something that this Gopher defense needs to capitalize on.
Well, let's talk about the Rutgers defense. My favorite play, I think the most maybe the definition of somebody asked me, can you define a Rob Smith defense? what's it look like? And it was in the second half. Rutgers switched all of their defensive linemen to different spots, like right before the snap. Like it was just this chaotic movement of these three went here, these two went here, and then we're going back here with like 5 seconds left on the game on the play clock, and Iowa just ran it up the middle for 9 yards. Like I go, if you're asking me my recollections, this goes back to the first game.
Yeah.
You've heard some people in the broadcast booth tell the story of the first game of PJ's era, where I'd come from the Tracy Clays and Jay Sawvell school of defense with Mike Sherrills there, and I watched how those guys operated, right? And then I watched the new guy for PJ, and I'm like, this seems chaotic and not in a good way. It seems like there's a lot of stuff going on that isn't good, and I don't know. And then, fairness and savagery, I mean, the fact that he was a total dink every single Wednesday when we talked to him for the coordinator availability did not help my perception, where he just couldn't have cared less about any of our jobs that we needed to do and almost reveled in it. So I typically don't take huge public shots, but this one I don't have a ton of problem with. Like, it's just, it was not an enjoyable experience to watch on the field or deal with behind the scenes. And it is crazy that, like you said, Burnsie, how many jobs has he had since here? He's on a Jerry Kill like level of different jobs, or Tim Brewster like level, different jobs. Things don't get better. And then all of a sudden he's got another, $1 million coordinator job. But so like Chip said, the numbers are right there for you, what you need to do against this defense. And what you need to do against this defense, and you should be able to control things against this defense. And obviously Schiano's got his imprint on it as well, and I'm sure he's probably, the de facto coordinator. But I think they should be able to move the ball. I really do. I mean, Iowa looked like, somebody, an Iowa fan in my life texted me on Friday night and was like, "We're the new air raid. We're the new greatest show on turf. What's going on here?" And so I'm going to be disappointed if they don't consistently move the ball and find their way into the end zone on Saturday.
That's the interesting thing is Rutgers is also the worst yards per play team in the Big Ten. I think they're allowing something like 7 yards per play, which is 18th. But the issue for Minnesota's offense has not been moving the ball. They're putting up the second most total yards of any Fleck offense against FBS opponents so far. I mean, it's just behind 2019. It's finishing drives and it's getting points. And some of that's explosive plays, which I've spent way too much time on Gopher Illustrated talking about explosive plays, and I even wrote about it yesterday. No one is disagreeing that the Gopher offense needs to become more explosive, and they've struggled to do so. But it's also within that they need some help from their defense and their return game. And what do I mean by that? Minnesota's offense has 47 consecutive non-garbage time drives that have started from the 45-yard line of the opponent and into their territory. Essentially 45 consecutive drives, Chip, where they haven't been in field goal range. Every drive needs to go 40 yards to get points. So they had one late in the game against Wisconsin last year where they took over on downs and garbage time. I'm not counting that. You can sample size, whatever. The last one was when Derek LeCaptain tipped a punt against Penn State. And then on the next play, Harbaugh dialed up the trick play to Jamison Gears for the touchdown. I'm not telling you that the offense is without fault, and they need to score points in this game. They need to score 25 plus points with or without Darius Taylor. My point is the defense, and I asked Fleck about this yesterday, and I know he didn't agree with me on really any of my questions that I had.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah. I mean, I brought up to him, you have one defensive takeaway in your last 5 games against FBS competition, and that was the Zaquan Bryan interception in the bowl game. He talks about the 78% metric. It's all over the facilities. We've all seen it. Winning the turnover margin and winning explosive plays are 2/3 of that. It's not just the offense needing to find a way to generate explosive plays, which they do. It's if you're going to get explosive plays on defense, your last strip sack was Ja Joyner against Luke Altmaier,
Illinois.
Yeah.
That was way too long ago. And then your last defensive interception against an FBS opponent, where I'm choosing my sample size to take out Northwestern State because no matter what Chip Scoggins writes in the Star Tribune, that was not a good football team that came in that day. They need to be more impactful there, or even with the return game, we could talk about in the NFL or college football last weekend. Special teams impact plays were just in abundance.
Yeah, everywhere.
Look at the Iowa Rutgers game. You start the game with a 100-yard kickoff return,
untouched,
and
didn't even have to move. Like he just ran in a straight line.
You're right. No, you're right. They've got to, you know, and the turnovers ones are weird because we may have discussed this last week, but it's not like they don't practice punching the ball out, doing those things, and
they had one taken away that Andy Greeter tweeted out the video of.
Yeah.
Where Minnesota didn't get a replay there. I'd also say I could have called the timeout to challenge it if he was.
Well, that's it. Yeah. Sure. And the Coy one, you know, that's going to be a pick six if it doesn't, you know. And I understand all that, but you're right. I mean, they've got to keep trying to be intentional, punching the ball out. I mean, we saw the Vikings when you're doing that. You know, we saw it last night in the Detroit Lions game when you punch it out on Derrick Henry. You know, I mean, it's become a skill. So the explosive plays on offense, I thought, you know, maybe I got fooled by the training camp and watching the young freshmen run down the field and, you know, in 7-on-7, but they've got to figure out, and I agree, you know, your question to Fleck was right on. It's like their pass catchers have to be better. I mean, they just have to be better.
Which was interesting to hear him essentially defend them. And I think I didn't have a chance to, I guess, clarify. I think he thought I was talking about just the Cal game, and it's not just the Cal game. It's been through 3 games. Things aren't caught cleanly, or they're body caught, or they've been abysmal at contested catches, which are 50-50 balls. And I mean, if I'm Minnesota and I'm without Darius Taylor, which he's going to be at that 21-day mark, I think he is going to be as close to returning as he possibly has been so far. If he does not return, I'm putting this thing on Drake Lindsey, because they're also very susceptible through the air. But if Drake Lindsey's going to go out and throw for 300 yards and have multiple touchdowns, he's going to need somebody to catch the ball cleanly, in stride, make a play, make somebody miss after the tackle. It all goes hand to hand. If you want to talk about playing complementary football, which Fleck always does, it has to be the offense helping the defense, and even the return game. We mentioned the Iowa returns. Minnesota in their last 76 games has 1 punt return over 30 yards, and that was Coy Parrott last year against Michigan. They have 1 kickoff return, Chip, in their last 29 games that has gone across midfield. I'm not asking for touchdowns. I'm just asking for explosive plays at some point from the return game.
Yeah, and you know, I started by saying they got to be able to run the ball because Rutgers have been atrocious at stopping the run. But I agree. If you don't have Darius and you're down to your third, and he's looked, you know, in the sample size we've seen, he's looked good. He looks good, and maybe he steps up and do it. But I trust the quarterback. I feel like, and we saw it. In my mind, Rutgers was going to win that game if on that third down they have an incomplete pass. Iowa does, but the 21 Rutgers defensive back basically gets the Iowa guy in a headlock and tackles him, and
for no reason.
You know, for no reason. It wasn't even on the balls away from him. He just did it, and that opened the door for Iowa. When we see what happens, then they go down and score, and then, you know, they get the interception and game's over. So I absolutely think that secondary can be tested for sure.
Yeah, and like Tom Brady's ex-wife said,
track meet on Saturday. I know the game total is only at like 50, and Minnesota's favored by 5 points. Ooh. They are the home team. They got a bye week to prepare, while Rutgers had to play Iowa. Rutgers is likely going to be without one of their starting linebackers who went down with a non-contact injury.
Yeah,
but I think Minnesota's defense is going to see the Kirk Shiraka Athan RPO thing go well in the first half. The question is, if Minnesota, as they should be able to do, put up 25 plus points, and I know some of our listeners are screaming, well, Iowa put up 38 as an offense. They put up 31 because there was the return touchdown, but I get what you're saying. Trust me, I do.
And the short field after the
interception, yeah.
Yeah, what's the short field like for the Gopher offense?
Man, the salt. It's just unbelievable.
Right.
It's just...
But it's probably going to take 30, right?
Not just the offense that is within this. That's all I'm trying to say.
You're right. And Athan, I mean, frankly, last year in Piscataway when Burnsie was amazed that I knew every word to a bar song by Shabuzi.
Big Shabuzi guy, Justin Gaard.
Huge, still to this day, a big Shabuzi guy. I might listen to it on the way to the PJ Fleck radio show today just to get my mind right. Athan should have had 2 picks in the first half last year. Like that was, and I think one of them, at least one of them, Burnsie, if I remember right, was to Justin Wally. It was just like stunning. I'd never seen him in 4 years play a ball that poorly. Athan should have been picked off twice. And there should have been a pick 6, right? Ethan Robinson dropped 1 too in the second half. So I guess the moral is, as well as Athan's playing, and he's obviously playing better. Like he should understand what Shiraka's always been a big fan, right? Going back to high school, they put everything into recruiting him to get him here. He should be playing well as a, whatever year senior he is with familiarity in the system. He's still going to give you opportunities though. And this is going to be one of those games where you have to take advantage of them, where you just can't have – it was a legit pick 6 right in front of me with Ethan Robinson. Wally, I'm still stunned he didn't pick it off. And going back to Cal, we talk about Coy's pick 6 that got deflected down at the line. I thought he should have intercepted one of the first passes of the game on the left sideline right by me. Just took a weird –
played it poorly.
Just jumped weird. It was almost like he didn't know what to do.
It's like a pirouette almost, the way that receiver caught it,
The point is – these other quarterbacks, Cal certainly did, and we saw it, the Aztecs, the Fighting Steve Fishers, to even go back to an older coach, Burnsie, that you might not even remember. Brady Hoke. Like, they'll give you opportunities just because that's who they've been. That's who Athan's been. Obviously, he can put it because he does trust his arm. He does trust his receivers, but that also means there's going to be some times where you got to just go make it. So I think that'll tell the story Saturday.
I saw his completion percentage is 68%.
Yeah.
He's never had one above 53. For him to be at 68 right now just tells you how consistently he's playing in the Shiraka offense.
Yeah.
And with that, got pressure on him, threw a pick in the fourth quarter in a very Iowa-like fashion, right? The ball gets –
And he got hit, right? Did he get hit at the line when he was thrown? Yeah.
That goes back to get some pressure on them. And they did that in the second half a year ago, and it made a huge difference. It made a huge, huge difference there. So
you just got to weather the storm to me because Rutgers is going to hit their shot plays. They take more shot plays than anymore. Like you have to weather the storm, and then in the second half, we've talked about first half Athan versus second half Athan for too many years, and you saw it start to come to fruition once Iowa figured out how to change the picture on Athan and Kirk and get some pressure, which getting pressure helps. But once you get pressure and you get him sped up or you get him off his first look, that's where you're going to have opportunities for takeaways. And this is a defense that needs to get some takeaways to win the game on Saturday.
Last thing on the Gophers before we pause and maybe spin around the Big Ten, including Iowa, Wisconsin. Madison's in a bad way right now. We'll talk about that. Illinois, Indiana. We got a lot more to get to. Do we expect Coy Perich's role to be any different on Saturday than it's been, Burnsie, given the adventures on Saturday night in Berkeley?
Yeah, there was a few things I thought were interesting from Fleck's response about how Coy is responding and just essentially the safety play. He talked about how he felt like the safeties in general were trying to just make a big play. And I agree. It felt like Kerry Brown, Coy Perich, Aiden Gooseby were all trying to be 2023 Tyler Nubin and freelance a little bit against Cal and make the big play, when the reality of safety play is 80% of it is incredibly boring. And it's do your job, keep things in front of you, be in your zone. And I think coming out the bye, I wouldn't be surprised if they took him off of either the return game or both offense just to get him to focus. I mean, he's one of the most confident individuals you'll ever meet.
Yep.
And a lot of that confidence comes from where his safety position is. And I don't think he's necessarily had a great start to the season. He's capable of being a very, very good player. That's why, for those of you not looking at Chip Scoggins on YouTube, he's still got the Coy Perich jersey hanging in the background.
Yep. And it's still the split one, too, with maroon and white for offense and defense.
Yeah, look at that, maroon and white.
Yeah, that's right.
Getting him, I think there's a pretty good chance that he's either off of offense or off of special teams just to get him to focus and get him playing at a high level on defense, because that Danny Collins defense needs it, and they're going to be tested on Saturday.
Yeah, and it's I mean, it was interesting. Fleck brought up not just him, but these guys are trying to make plays, right? And we talked about it last episode where the line between being confident and aggressive and getting outside of the what your rules and responsibilities are. And so I'm guessing the message got through. When you have a loss like that, I think that probably gets attentions. So
yeah.
Would it be too knee jerk to just say, okay, you know what? This experiment that we thought we're just going to scrap it and go back to just playing defense. I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious to that, but I still feel like if the message got through to Coy that, hey, you got to be fundamentally sound here. Yes, you're explosive, and yes, you want to return these things, but you got to understand you don't catch the ball on the 5-yard line. You don't catch a rolling punt like that. That I still would want to see him returning punts and kicks. I
don't want to take him off of that. I know
I don't either.
It hasn't been good, but I still think he gives you your best chance to give you what you want, Burnsie. You know what I mean?
If you're asking me, I would take him off of offense. And I think he can be a really good receiver if he committed to it full time. But the reality is they need him on defense. I would take him off of offense. Just let him be defense and return. Let him clear his head and just focus on those two things for this first game against Rutgers. But we'll see what Fleck decided to do.
Well, and part of it is, and I've talked about this before, he never gets to sit down on these benches. Like I have yet to see him on the bench. You know what I mean? Like he comes in, he does his thing on defense, and then he, goes and stands and waits for whatever he's going to do, whether it's offense, whether it's special teams. Like, so he literally never gets a break, which, he's 20 years old and a phenomenal athlete. I'm not saying, he needs oxygen over there, but at some point it probably would behoove somebody to just let him sit down for 3 minutes and just kind of chill out and
middle break.
I don't know how he goes over all the things he's supposed to go over. I know he's got different coaches going to him at different times, showing him stuff, but you guys know how a sideline is. Like on the defense, after they come off after a series, they're all there with the Microsoft Surface tablets. In the Rob Smith era, he'd have 50 sheets of paper. He'd scribble a bunch of stuff and then throw them like confetti at Times Square. Jay Sawbell would get the whiteboard and very calmly, sometimes not so calmly, write things out. He might slam a marker on the board. Like there's instruction and game plan stuff that goes on during those times. And I'm not saying Coy's not getting it, but it also might help him to actually sit with the guys he's doing it with for a little bit.
Yeah.
Go over things, if that makes sense.
Just take a breath. Giving him the opportunity to take a breath off the bye, I think, is an outstanding idea.
All right. I was trying to do something on the fly. I don't know if you guys could tell that I was a little bit distracted. But you know what? It's not going to work because I didn't think ahead. I wasn't like Chip Scoggins, and I didn't prepare well enough. But I remembered during the pause that the Chip Challenge for Jack's Cafe came to fruition, I guess, right? The Chip Challenge was answered. And Burnsie, I don't even know if you know this, but Chip got an email, and it looks like I did too, from Scott.
Well, you guys are the pair of the podcast, and I know I'm
true.
the spare. So that's
You're definitely the spare.
Yep.
He says, sending this photo in to fulfill Chip and Justin's challenge. We were married on the 21st night of September in 2019, importantly, a Gopher bye week, and held our groom's dinner at Jack's Cafe. We've celebrated multiple anniversaries here since, but this Sunday was our first time bringing the kids to the patio for brunch, so no ordering from the 100% menu this time. We love the pod and we love Jack's. Can't wait for the rest of the season. Row the boat, Skyuma, go Gophers, from Scott and Katie. And the picture, I mean, I don't know if they want to be public figures, so I won't put it up. Yeah. That's what I was trying to do. But they're out there on the patio. We got Scott and Katie, two beautiful girls. The younger girl looks bored with the whole thing, which is the best part about it. Does not want to be taking a picture. But a beautiful family, a beautiful brunch at Jack's Cafe in your favorite spot, Burnsie, the back patio, and the Chip Challenge was answered. You have to feel good about that, Chip.
I loved it when I got that email and saw that it was their anniversary, and they took their two beautiful daughters there, and they're outside and had the brunch, and that's what we wanted, right? We threw out the challenge. Scott came through, and how about him having his groom's dinner at Jack's? That's a perfect spot. Upstairs, plenty of room. Got the bar up there. Service is gonna be great. So
I almost wouldn't bring my friends, my groomsmen to the Jack's. Too classy.
It's too classy.
I think Jack's.
They're the after party.
Yeah, for my crew. maybe the next day brunch would be a better fit for my buddies.
That's right. But happy anniversary, Scott and Katie, and thanks for including us, and thanks for listening to the pod and going to Jack's.
It's the best. It's absolutely the best. And so if you're looking to have a groom's dinner, if you're looking to have a date night, if you're looking to have an anniversary, if you're looking to have just, brunch with your boys like Burnsie likes to do, Jack's Cafe is the place to do it. JAXcafe.com for reservations. Sorry you weren't included on the email, Burnsie. You must not be as accessible to the public as Chip and I are.
Many people say that about me, but I'm excited they went to Jack's. I got a reservation there next week, taking my best man out there for his birthday. So excited to see it.
Sweet.
Support those that support us, and stay tuned to the Parent and Spare social media channels, because typically we get tickets to give away. The Parent and Spare podcast are de facto season ticket holders to Gopher football because of Bill and because of Jack. So if we get the tickets and the parking a little bit later this week, we'll certainly let you know for that 11 o'clock kick against Rutgers. And again, make your reservations at jackscafe.com. Boys, did we see the Mark Gronowski coming out party, or do we still need to see more from the South Dakota State Jackrabbit transfer at the University of Iowa, Burnsie?
I thought Gronowski was okay in that game. I know there's a lot of Iowa people that are trying to say this is, for them, I'm sure this looked like the greatest thing on turf. But I'm thinking about some throws where he missed a tight end wide open for a touchdown.
That was bad.
Like, he was much better. There's no getting around that. But I don't know that this is the South Dakota State version quite yet. But I'm glad to see that Tim Lester, the Iowa offensive coordinator, is using him more in the run game, because that's, to me, the key to getting him to play more comfortable, because that's what he was so good at South Dakota State.
2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter on the ground, right?
Yeah.
And I love how he did the ear to the hand thing, the hand to the ear thing after he played that poorly. You know what I mean? Like, that just takes some amazing confidence. I love it. It's fine, whatever. But it's like, dude, you killed 50 worms like 10 minutes ago.
That's
you were off the field, if not for a stupid holding penalty. 3 and out, by the way, after Rutgers retook the lead. And then he made a great throw on the deep shot. It was a hell of a catch by an Iowa receiver, because to your point, Burnsie, about the Gophers, Iowa's receivers ain't exactly been Tim Dwight, in this
what a
season.
pull right there. I love that.
Well, I was trying to Ed Hinkle, trying to Dallas Clark. I'm trying to go down the list.
Is Amir Smith-Marset somewhere?
Amir Smith-Marset. I could go with that. I'll get myself in trouble if I keep going. I'll name the wrong guy and get emails. But so they had to kind of up their game too, and they did. That was a hell of a catch to put them in the red zone, and then Gronowski pretty much took it from there. But I just loved it that all of a sudden, after being horrible for 3 games, now we're cocky. Now we're going to the Rutgers student section and saying, "What do you think of me now?" Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. He had more carries than completions. So, he threw for 186 yards, 12 completions. He had 13 carries. I do think, obviously, he's very comfortable running, very gifted at running, and that should be a big part of what they do. Yeah, he made plays when they need him, but it's still. I don't know if they've arrived as a passing, with only 12 completions and 186 yards, but when they incorporate the run, he's a threat there. So, it early on, neither of those defenses looked very good, and then obviously Phil Parker does what Phil Parker does. He adjusted, made the right calls, and he's just a tremendous coordinator. Obviously, we're not uncovering any secret there, but it was an absolute Iowa win. As I mentioned, I think Rutgers wins that game without that PI. I just do, because they're up 4 in the fourth, and that they're getting off the field and getting the ball back, and they have Rutgers has a really terrible PI, and it opened the door, and this Iowa does what Iowa does. They capitalize.
Yep. I got this text from I always call him one of my Iowa friends. I think he wants to be named. So Chad, I'm naming him. Because I did tell him he's basically an unofficial part of the Parent and Spare podcast. He's just like a non-credit getting contributor. He wrote this Saturday, about 12 hours after the game. Per the Des Moines Register, by game's end, Iowa had averaged more yards per play than Rutgers, 6.2 to 5.7. By game's end, Iowa had averaged more yards per pass attempt than Rutgers, 10.3 to 8.3. And he emphasized Iowa in both paragraphs because the next sentence was, when was the last time Iowa averaged more than anyone on offense in the Big Ten? To your point, Burnsie, they're feeling good. It's been a long time coming for them to have a quote-unquote modern explosive offense. And if only for a night in Piscataway, the numbers say that they got it.
I'm just laughing that's the bar to clear for them. I love that for your buddy Chad. I love that for the Iowa offense that now is going to have a heck of a test with a very confident team coming into Kinnick this weekend. But, I mean, they put up 31 points on the road in the Big Ten. I don't care who it is. That's really tough to do.
Yeah, and we'll see if they've raved about Kronowski, right? The Jackrabbit fans love him. I hear from him every single week. I get texts at KFAN basically like the guy put up 10,000 yards, and he knows what he's doing, which is true. He does. So we'll see if he kind of can sustain it. And I think he probably will to an extent. The running aspect, he is like kind of like Mitch Leidner in that way, right? Like you knew it was at the 5-yard line. Leidner was probably more likely to run it in than throw it in, right? And that's what he was good at.
And I do think their offensive line took over there in the second half. I thought they were really physical and create a lot of running lanes. I mean, we talked about their line going into the season. I thought they were good in the second half, particularly.
Yes, they were.
All right, so we'll talk about the good in the Big Ten before we talk about the
Wisconsin
funereal. Yeah, the funereal, not good. It's a true shame. It's a true shame to see what's happened in Madison. But Indiana, Illinois, I was surprised Indiana was favored by as much as they were. I think it was like 7 or 7.5, wasn't it, Burnsie? Somewhere around there.
And you boys didn't believe last week. I'll remind you. I got multiple tweets from people saying those boys didn't believe in the fight in Kirk Signetti's.
No, and it was a close game for a minute, and then it was anything but. It was a dominant Indiana performance in really all phases. And where I think what stood out to me, and Signetti talked about it in the post game, and this is what I do like about him. His quote, and I'm paraphrasing, was, "Well, we thought we could dominate their lines, and we did."
The trenches.
And
that game was absolutely won in the trenches. You don't win the rushing margin 310-2 without just completely dominating the trenches.
They had almost 600 yards of total offense.
Yeah.
Against Illinois, which is, it's a Bielema-led Illinois team. Like, that just doesn't happen.
Or even, it's the quote, and we'll spend some time on this game, but I was even dying yesterday at Signetti's quote when talking about the upcoming Iowa game. He's like, yeah, it's a challenge. Quote, a more difficult challenge than the last one for sure. I'm like,
wow.
Just Google
What's it like when he walked
into
the Big Ten meetings? What's it like when he pulls up to the Big Ten meetings with all these guys who've been here forever? And there's obviously animosity and there's chippiness, and we thought we'd leave the timeouts here and take Floyd with us, stuff that goes on.
Yeah.
But when he pulls up, I bet everyone's like, jeez.
Here we go.
Who's sitting by Signetti this week, and when they're at their La Jolla, or Huntington Beach, California Big Ten meetings?
Yeah, I totally undersold them. I thought it was ridiculous last year where, how much they got dumped on for doing something that was out of their control. They can't control the Big Ten schedule. They can't control who they play. They just beat the teams they played, and they beat them pretty convincingly. Just their level of physicality compared to Illinois, it was staggering.
You don't often see that against a Bielema-led team, I'll say that.
Or any Big Ten team.
That's why it's surprising, because Illinois is supposed to be the bruiser, right? They're supposed to be the one that wins in the trenches. I've seen it. We've all seen it. Just how Bielema at Wisconsin, Bielema here, that's what they're supposed to do. And we should have seen it coming, and Burnsie, you did, but they came in with a lot of hype, obviously, because they had 10 wins a year ago. They won the bowl game, which to me doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But that gave them some juice and some mojo, and they've got Altmaier back. If you have your quarterback coming back in the Big Ten, that's like a leg up on everybody else, right? Just by osmosis. But they had, I think, their entire offensive line coming back, right, Burnsie? They had a lot coming back on defense, and we should have seen it coming, though, that they couldn't protect against Duke. Like, Altmaier was in trouble against Duke, and they don't win that game if they don't get 5 turnovers, which, again, they got them, credit to them, but that was one where you're not really dialed in. in the non-conference, you're just kind of score watching and going, okay, Illinois pulled away from Duke. That's good. That makes sense. They're top 10, whatever they're going to be. But if you kind of looked at the numbers a little bit more deeply, there were some troubling signs there that were big time borne out on Saturday in Bloomington.
The offensive line struggles for Illinois is fascinating to me because this wasn't supposed to be the case. And that's one of the things Cignetti pointed to afterwards. And I know you talked about it, that someone asked him, how'd you get so much pressure in Illinois? And he goes, did you watch the Duke game? Like they did. Duke just turned the ball over 5 times. So for Illinois, it's certainly got to be a glass of cold water to the face. And now they get to play USC, which we'll talk about that game in a second. But I think the other part of it, too, is for Indiana, the Cal quarterback transfer, Mendoza, he had 5 touchdown passes, 2 incompletions. This is the way it was supposed to go when he transferred in from Cal, and he has been white hot. After, I think, the first couple of games he was okay, but the last 2 games he has been white hot. Right. Now, it helps that Illinois was also without, I think, a couple members of their starting secondary, but going from a very emotional game on NBC at home, top 20 teams, to now you get to go on the road to Iowa, where they are only a 7-point favorite against Iowa coming in.
That's a big number, though. Like you say, only that feels like a lot. I mean, that's a 31-24 type win. You think it should? I mean, what do you think the fair number should be? Because Iowa, we're talking about their offense. Like it's still Iowa at home. And I know they haven't beaten a top 25 team in a while. Contributor to the podcast, Chad, gave us that text last week.
Yeah.
But like, I think that's about what I would say. I would say that's probably a fair number.
Vegas says this game for Indiana versus Iowa this weekend is going to be somewhere around 28-21. Indiana is what they're kind of gauging the public at right now. I think a lot of it just depends on what do you think of Mark Gronowski? And do you think Fernando Mendoza, the Indiana quarterback, can decipher Phil Parker or stifle Phil Parker for 60 minutes? Or how many minutes can we see him do it? We saw Max Brosmer and Greg Harbaugh come out swinging in the first half for 30 minutes, and then Phil Parker adjusted in the second half. They need to come out hot if you're Indiana to not give Iowa hope. As you said, Iowa has struggled against ranked opponents now at home for a while. And have the home crowd against them, they're going to take it.
And I'm looking at their schedule now, so they're at Iowa, at Oregon, the next 2 weeks.
They have Penn State on the horizon too.
They still go to Penn State. So now the rest of the schedules, they should roll. But it'll be interesting to see. It's always a test, right? You have a big win where there's national TV spotlight, all that was going into a top 10 opponent. Now you got to go into a road against a team that is feeling good about itself and always has, finds a way in Kinnick to, special teams, whatever. So, but what you said the spread was 7?
7.5.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
I think it's about right.
Yeah.
I can't put it any more on the road. Now, again, here's the problem though. Like Cignetti's like the e-bikers that Chip was talking about before we hit record today. The kids on the e-bikes.
The kids on the e-bikes. Yeah. There's no brakes. Yeah, it's all gas. Yeah.
Like Cignetti is downhill on the e-bike with no helmet, does not care. And if he crashes, he gets right back up. And as we've said, that is the formula against Iowa. Like Cignetti, if they throw a first quarter interception in their own territory, he's not going to go, well, we better slow it down here, fellas. Like, let's manage this game. No, he's going to go dial it up again. He's going to be like Herb Brooks and Miracle again. He's kind of like Jeff Brom in that way. And as you guys know, I've been saying it for 10 years, to move the ball against Iowa, you have to attempt to move the ball against Iowa. You have to try to move. And Rutgers on their last touchdown drive, they did that. It was hard. There were 3 or 4 contested catches, but they put the ball in the air. They went down the field in like 5 or 6 plays, scored a touchdown, and we already talked about that game. But that's what you have to do. Yeah,
you always say it's a self-fulfilling prophecy when you play Iowa. If you think, we can't make mistakes, because they'll pounce on mistakes and they'll capitalize, and then you play conservative and you play right into their hands. And so Rutgers didn't. They came out throwing the ball, and let's see what Cignetti does. I mean, you're right. He's an aggressive coach. He's going to coach with that mindset. And so I was just. I was so, and maybe this is more of an indictment on Illinois, but just how physical and fast Indiana looked the other night.
Yeah.
Jumped out to me. And I want to see if that continues here this week against Iowa, or how much of that was maybe we just overinflated what Illinois is. I don't know. I mean, I think Indiana's a really good team. I think they're good. I don't think, but I want to see if they take that on the road against what I think is a pretty good Iowa team defensively when they're locked in, and they're, that's a good Iowa defense when they're when they make adjustments and adjust to what the offense is doing. So it's going to be a hell of a game.
Well, I think it's just a classic Big Ten. Like, you just came off this huge win. Now you're rewarded, and you've got, like you say, Oregon on the horizon, and then Penn State. Oh, but also, by the way, you got to go to Kinnick in front of 70,000 for a 230, and they're feeling good. Like, that's the Big Ten now. Like, there's no free rolls. There's no easy ones.
Nope.
That's life in the Big Ten. So we'll see. And so I think that, to me, that's the most intriguing game, really, to see what's true about both of these teams.
I almost think the USC-Illinois game is just as intriguing.
Yeah, it's right up there.
The dead cat bounce element for Illinois, saying they can't play that poorly again, and now they get to go home. But you've also got USC, and we talked about it during the Cal Week. They got to go 2 time zones. They go from playing at, 9 p.m. Central, or it was 9 p.m. Pacific last week against Michigan State, to now 9 a.m. Pacific time against Illinois in Champaign. The boys from Southern California have to go to the cornfields of Champaign. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Illinois. And I think that spread is about the same that it is between, Illinois is a 6.5 point underdog at home against USC.
Wow. Yeah.
I know that USC looked really good. They've looked really explosive, but that's a 9 a.m. start, boys, for that USC Trojans team that hasn't won many big games under Lincoln Riley.
And I got a feeling that Bielema will use all that stuff to his,
I'm sure he will.
I'm not saying they're going to win, but I think they'll have a bounce back performance. And you're right. I mean, the 2 time zones and you're a 9 a.m. kickoff for them, you got to factor that in.
Or even the last one I want to say is the Minnesota's next opponent after this weekend, which is Ohio State, another night game, 3 night games in a row after this.
We'll get to it.
Get it out.
No, we'll get to it. Hold the pin.
But Washington hosting Ohio State is one of the low-key, most interesting games of the weekend.
Yeah.
Washington has won 22 straight home games.
Agreed.
And Washington is a good football team.
Yes.
That is going to be a fascinating game to watch at 2:30 on CBS.
I thought you were going to say UCLA at Northwestern, but you didn't. So I just, for the record, wanted to get that out there. Let's see. Do I have anything else? So Wisconsin, do they have a non-conference game this week, or are they just on bye? I think
they're on a bye.
They're
must be on a bye. And they have to regroup. I'm just going to read you a tweet here and then tell you who it's from. Chip probably doesn't know who it's from. Burnsie, I'm guessing you do.
Okay.
It's from 18 hours ago to just show you how down bad Madison is right now. Here's the tweet. Say what you want about the Big Ten's most okayest football coach, PJ Fleck. He has a culture. Yes, it's cringy and cartoonishly performative, but it's still a culture, and his guys know what the deal is and play hard for him. Do you know who that tweet was from, Burnsie, before I unveil it to Chip?
Is it your favorite, what is it, Milwaukee Journal?
No, that guy, you should see his tweets. Basically, before the Maryland game, it was Iowa was going to be a tough out for Wisconsin in a few weeks. It's like, are you watching football? And this is the guy who covered the team, which tells you everything you need to know about other media markets. But I digress. No, this is from a parody account named Scary Alvarez. At Barry is the Don. So he's kind of like the fake Bob Motzko or the fake Don Lucia for Gopher fans. And he is relentless on PJ Fleck. I mean, he's so like it. I don't know if I follow him. No, I don't. But he comes up in my algorithm all the time. And just talking about the ceiling for Gopher football, and he's very down on PJ. But some of the responses to this, because he's got like 25,000 followers, and he's very funny. Let me see. Somebody wrote, I just sent officers to your house for a wellness check. Where is it? Where is it? There was another really good one. But basically, everybody knows that for him to say this about PJ is he's on the plank, he's on the edge of the cliff looking over.
Did you see the actual comments from Barry Alvarez that have come out this morning?
I was going to get to those as well. Okay. Why don't you? Well, go ahead. He does the Barry Alvarez show on ESPN Madison, and he's defending Fickell, which, by the way, to me is the right thing to do. You guys, I know it's a mess, but I've said this for 2 years. It got sideways, and then there was no support from anybody on the outside, which has completely spun up everybody. And the next former Badger that tweets about how great the old days are, my God, like they were Alabama. Calm down a little bit, like calm down. And that's basketball and football. But Barry basically said our fans are spoiled rotten.
Correct.
And we've got a lot of young guys playing, and the booing and the leaving is not helpful. And where I disagree with him is he said, basically, if you're going to boo, don't show up. Be careful with that.
Yeah, they won't show up.
People are paying a lot of money to go to Camp Randall and all these stadiums. Be careful with that. It's a fan to me has a right to do whatever they want to do if they buy a ticket and go to a game. Obviously, within reason.
Within reason, yeah.
But I think we all know what I'm talking about there. So he kind of lost me in the second half of it. Like, because if I'm at the stadium and you boo, I'm telling you to get your ass out. It's like, well, no, that's not how it works. But to me, the immediate lack of support from anybody at Wisconsin that ever played there, went to a game there, or drank a beer there has not been helpful. And now they're in, I mean, they got just boat raced by Maryland, who I think is just okay. And it was bad at the stadium on Saturday.
This is a confluence of bad, negative things. One, this was not the year to have that schedule. Yep. When you're trying to get a program off the ground, to have that schedule is brutal. You knew it was going to be bad going in.
You needed a few Northwestern states sprinkled in there this year.
This was not the year to have that schedule and have quarterback injuries. I mean, they lost their top two quarterbacks Saturday. Again. You're down to your third guy. I mean, your starter that you started the season with, who got hurt in the first game, came back. He got hurt in the first quarter. Number two guy took a beating against Maryland. He got hurt. Now you're not. It's, and I understand the animosity of Fickell because it's like anything. When you're used to success, you think it's happens in perpetuity. You think you're going to have success for the rest of your life, and you're used to. That's what you're used to. I understand. It's natural. Like that's what fans expect. It's fun going to Rose Bowls, probably, right?
Yeah.
It's fun having success. It's fun doing all those things, and you get used to it. I don't think it's spoiled. I think you just get used to it. You think this is how it's always going to be, and they're going through obviously a painful transition, and it's just timing. Like this was not the year to have a brutal schedule where you face every difficult team and Alabama.
We've talked about the schedule, and it's not going to get any easier because out the bye week, you get to travel to the Big House to take on a very confident Michigan team.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about their win at Nebraska, which I thought was a nice victory there. I mean, that was a big game for Nebraska, and Michigan answered the call. But go ahead, Burnsie.
I would say with the Billy Edwards thing, it reminds me of what's going on with Darius Taylor right now, where maybe they pushed him back on the early end of his return window with whatever that injury was, and he clearly re-injured it. And now, as we all know, the re-injury is always worse than the first injury, so he's probably out at least a month. Danny O'Neal took an absolute beating all game. Maryland had 10 tackles for loss in Camp Randall.
Yeah.
I know that offensive line is beat up for the Badgers, and they're starting a lot of different players that they probably weren't counting on. But the question is going to get louder and louder is Chris McIntosh going to pull the plug on the $25 million buyout that Luke Fickell has? And if they do, and we can spend a lot of time over the coming months talking about it, is it Jason Eck? Is it Lance Leipold? Is it the corpse of Jim Leonard? By the way, how much do you think Jim Leonard is laughing wherever he is right now for being the scapegoat back when?
I mean, I'm sure he's not devastated because it sounds like he thought he was getting the job. My favorite beat reporter thought he was getting the job, and 10 minutes later, Luke Fickell got hired. But along those lines, here I tweeted this out Saturday night. This is from Wikipedia. Paul Chryst was fired on October 2nd, 2022, after the Badgers started the 2022 season 2-3 and 0-2 in the Big Ten. He finished at Wisconsin with an overall record of 67-26. That's a 72% win percentage, 43-18 70.5% in Big Ten play. And that's where I think this, and I remember this one rattled other Big Ten coaches because he was like 3 years off of the Rose Bowl at that point, 2019. Then you had COVID. And then I think they were 7-5 the year after. And then they started slow. And he got fired. And he, Rose Bowl, I think they went to an Orange Bowl. That was turnover chain my bleeping ass, Paul Chris on the sideline when they beat Miami.
That's right.
Like I talk about it a lot, and maybe Illinois is going through this right now too. Not that they're going to fire Bielema, but you get your program to a place, and then you start thinking, well, this is where we always should be, and this is where we need to go. And if we have any slippage, then we need to make a change. I've talked about it with Greg Gaard forever. How many times has Greg Gaard been on the hot seat at Wisconsin?
Yeah.
10 in the 10 years, 5?
Every year, every other year.
And what do? They hang with them. They stay the course. He gets a couple new kids from Lakeville North, and they are top 4 in the Big Ten and go to the tournament, right? Like, to me, that was the biggest blunder. And I know, Burnsie, you can tell me that recruiting had slipped off and they weren't with the times. I got a lot of response to that tweet saying, well, he didn't even have a recruiting department, which, okay, how many spotted cows are we drinking here? Are we to really believe that Wisconsin just had no recruiting department? Like, I get it. What are we doing here? Because players are showing up somehow, some way. Like, what have they been doing for 30 years? Like, just hoping kids got the application and came to tryouts, August 1st. Like, they had to have some type of recruiting department. But I think that was the big misplay, was obviously thinking this is completely spiraling when you didn't even give the guy a chance at the first sign of adversity to work his way out of it, because it's worked well for the hoops program. I'm just saying, a guy who understands the program, we know it. He was there. His dad was a coach. He grew up there. Like, I just will always think they did Paul Chris so wrong. And you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes sometimes. Dairy Raid comes in, it's a complete disaster. I mentioned the former players not being on board with it. I don't love that, but I understand why they might not have liked how things went down. And here they are. They could go winless in the Big Ten. And how do you get out of it? Because there's no way to get out. They've got no momentum recruiting right now, right, Burnsie? I mean, PJ's gone in there and grabbed a couple of their top players, including Nathan Roy, the starting left tackle. So that was a long-winded diatribe. But as a college sports guy, it frustrates me how the Wisconsin thing went down. As a guy who likes sending pictures of the axe to all my Wisconsin relatives, I don't mind it. And all my buddies from Edina that went to Wisconsin and think it's the greatest place ever. I love the Thanksgiving tradition of sending me and the axe. I didn't even do it last year because it's not even a novelty now. It just happens so often. It frustrates me that this is how that whole thing went down. And I don't know how they get out of it, because they are in a bad, bad spot.
I think the thing that McIntosh has got to figure out is everybody is angry right now. And if you're an athletic director, that's okay, because it's worse than anger? Apathy.
Not caring.
Like, everybody's angry. So by the time you get to the latter part of this schedule and you're getting into home games later on in November against Washington and Illinois, I'd be paying attention if there has not been a move. How many people are still showing up? And if you are going to pull the trigger on $25 million, whatever that may be, you better have somebody lined up that is going to be better, because that is a lot of money to spend for a buyout to then – I mean, can you imagine if they go – and I like Jason Eck, and he's from Wisconsin, and I think he's done good things out there in the Mountain Time Zone now. I think he's in New Mexico, and he's gotten them to play well against Oregon, and then they took – who'd they take to the wire earlier this year?
They crushed UCLA.
Yeah. Like, that would make a lot of sense. The Lance Leipold would make a lot of sense, but – I mean, to me, the crux of this thing comes down to, with Wisconsin right now, their quarterbacks just can't. If you have no quarterbacks and you can't run the ball because your offensive line is banged up, how are you going to win a football game if you can't score any points?
It is fascinating, right? You talk about making sense. What was your reaction? Holy cow, this is a grand slam. What a hire for them to get him. And now 3 years.
Yep.
We got to move on to the next guy. I don't know what the answer is, because you guys know, we've seen it. These things gain momentum. It builds momentum. It's like a snowball, a runaway snowball. I don't know how you reverse it, other than you have some. You win a game where it shows something like, okay, hey, yeah, we can see where this is going, and then maybe that feeds the group. But I have a son over there, and I mean, I can tell you, it is the reaction to football right now is unlike anything I've seen since I went on the beat many years ago.
Yeah, well, and the quarterback thing is such a huge one too, and that happened last year, right? I mean,
I was there when the guy got hurt against Iowa. Yeah,
yeah, that was part of the problem at the end of Chris too. Like their quarterback had been hurt a number of times, right? Mm-hmm. Even the first year the Gophers beat them, I think they were down to their second or third quarterback, if I remember. Like that does matter. Like that should factor in. And Burnsie, you'll tell me, as part of your Netflix series, there aren't exactly a lot of 5-stars just hanging out on the sidelines of Power 4 programs waiting their turn, right? At a lot of these programs. Like even PJ's talked about it, like, the Gophers backup quarterback is Max Shikanjansky, right? Who's a former walk-on who comes in with no entitlement. Like, how rare is that, right? So you lose your quarterback, you're in trouble. And that's happened the last 2 years. Now, again, his biggest problem was probably the dramatic cultural shift, right, to offensively when you go away. Because even Gary Anderson, the Utah State coach, who, by the way, won the West at least once, maybe twice in his 2 years there, he was not a cultural fit, which, again, I think sometimes you got to get over that. But if you're winning, it's fine. If you're losing, you're in serious trouble. And that's what happened with Fickle, right, is he brought the offense he was doing at Cincinnati. It's something that Wisconsin fans since 1989, when Barry Alvarez got there, aren't accustomed to watching. Most of those guys in their ring of honor are running backs or offensive linemen, right? I'm thinking about Ron Dane and Joe Thomas and go down the list. So it's been fascinating to watch, though, because the picture somebody sent with 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter on Saturday, it was spring game like.
It was like that UCLA picture. It was like that UCLA picture we saw.
That's exactly right. It was as bad as I ever remember it. So we'll see, man. But it is not good. Not good. But how do you – Wisconsin's not – they're not Penn State or Oregon with money, right, Burnsie? No. I mean, they had to catch up with NIL. Greg Gard talked about that. They lost some guys. They had to go in the portal and get them. Like, they're not exactly a team that's just printing money despite all their success. So $25 million and then the investment. But at some point it becomes a business decision too of, well, we're losing too much money now with football or not making as much as we should, and we just got to bite the bullet and go.
They've certainly got a bigger budget than Minnesota does in their athletic department. And
they do, but it's not crazy. It's not the level where they
don't have top 6 in the Big Ten revenue, but $25 million to them is a lot of money. And that's where I will continue to say, if you do pull the trigger, I mean, how much are we expecting them to then spend on the next guy? Because they're not printing money. I mean, it's a gamble for McIntosh either way. And I don't know if he's on the hot seat at all or with the way that this football hire has gone, but trying to figure out, because everybody's going to want them to get back to the glory days of Monty Ball and whoever else, pick your XYZ 2000s Wisconsin player.
Yep.
It's just so difficult when you don't hit on your evaluations. And when Billy Edwards has not been healthy and he's your highest paid player on the entire roster, if you don't have a quarterback in the Big Ten these days, when I think Drake Lindsey's a pretty good quarterback, and I don't know that there's a lot of good quarterbacks in the Big Ten this year. And if you don't have a quarterback and you're not healthy on the offensive line, I don't care how good your defense is. By the time the Gophers play them, that defense is just going to be worn down.
All right. Anything else on the Badgers? As they've got the much-needed bye week to have everybody calm down. I think we're good on Big Ten talk. We got one Burnsie grievance to talk about in a second, the latest. But Chip, I know you've got a big story dropping today. Football across Minnesota to talk about. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, football across Minnesota has a Gopher angle. Well, that's awful kind of you and generous. There you go. Yeah. Daniel Jackson, the freshman kicker from Alexandria. I went out and spent some time with him and his parents out in Alexandria this summer. He had a break from summer workouts here and was back home, so I went out and spent a day with really, really cool kid. Smart, has a ton of interests. I won't give it away. It's going to hit on the Star Tribune website on Tuesday here, but really well-rounded, bright, inquisitive young man who has, like I said, has a lot of interest, and
an interesting way that he got into kicking, I will say. An interesting connection to Minnesota that got him involved in kicking.
That's what we call a tease.
That's teaser right there.
That's what we call a tease.
Yeah,
that's what we call it.
So yeah, it'll be online on Tuesday. So it just really it was fun to go out there and get to spend some time with him and his folks.
They're always good, man. They're always fun. They're always interesting. I like the one on Wadena the other day. I texted you on that. That was a very cool story. And I told you, the small town life does nothing for me.
I love it.
But I can see why people like it. I could see why people like it. I don't know if it would be the best environment for me.
Yeah.
But
I'm ready for a small town. I could retire in a small town. I love small town environments and people, and Wadena is a great. If you ever get a chance, you said you've been through it. If you ever get a chance to go spend some time there, great people and just a really cool place.
I loved it. All right, Burnsie, what are you mad about? We need a name for this bit.
I don't know what I'm mad about, but I do want to quickly note whiteout game this weekend. Oregon has to go to Penn State.
Yeah, I did see
this is a big week for the 2 time zone travel theory, with USC going to Illinois, with Ohio State going to Washington, with now Oregon getting tested against Penn State. Big game, James Franklin, boys. I want you to call it in the air.
Well, I was going to say, this is the game they have to win, right? I mean, this is supposed to be their year. They're supposed to be the Big Ten champs this year. They're supposed to be a national championship contender. Everybody has been saying it, right? Going all the way back to Vegas. It was almost unanimous. People thought this is the team. This is the year. Talk about having their quarterback back. They do. They have to. I'm going Penn State because they have to. Although, I love Dan. I love me some Dan Lanning. I love me some Dan Lanning, and I'm sure he's got the whole thing fired up. If they win, their video is going to be on fire with how he prepared them for the whiteout. I can't even imagine what crazy things he's come up with this week to do it. But yeah, it's a night kick, which Burnsie hates, but they do create a very nice environment.
Yeah, I know. I'm a big Dan Lanning fan too. I think it's going to be a great game. I'm going with the home team in a 3-point win.
Speaking of night games, the other one I want to get Chip's opinion on here would be Bama, Georgia.
Georgia, yeah. I think Georgia there. I think Georgia's unfortunately, they broke my heart a couple weeks ago, but they got
we didn't even talk about that. It was for the podcast.
I had to go for a long walk after that. It was interesting. I had my Tennessee shirt on, and as soon as we lost, I walking down the street and I had to go for a long walk just to get my mind right. And the car pulls over and 2 guys are in it. We're like, "Hey man, we're sorry." They've been watching the game too.
Can you imagine just Chip walking down his East Metro?
Had my dog.
Just head down.
That's how it was. Just dejected, angry.
I would say he's got his headphones in, but there's no shot. He's just playing on his iPhone, really loud, Rocky Top, as he's trying to get a little bit of mojo back.
Yeah. I'll go Georgia there.
All right. Yeah, and thoughts and prayers for you on that. The way that game ended too. That was tough.
It was tough.
All right, well, Burnsie, we've got an 11 o'clock kick. Enjoy it, buddy, because is it 3 night games in a row after that? Or 2? I didn't know because we knew Columbus, we knew Purdue, and then I guess, who's
Nebraska.
Next after? Nebraska.
Nebraska's a Friday night, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Man, why do you hate electric night environments so much, Burnsie? I don't understand this.
It's just you spend all day waiting for it, and then again, for us schlubs in the media, I'm not asking anybody to throw a pity party for us, but it's just then I don't sleep much, or I choose not to sleep at all just to get stuff done. I like the 11 a.m.s, and I can go home and get everything done and stuff like that. But or even for this game on Saturday, I'm coming in hot. I got a wedding on Friday night in Raleigh, so I'm taking a 5 a.m. flight out of Raleigh into MSP that lands at like 8 a.m.
That's a Guardsy move right there.
Wow.
That is a Guardsy move right there if I've ever seen one. That's dedication. Well, like we said last week, how we got the Gopher Football Sunday show on the air, thank you for your dedication to your readers. Because people should know that. That's how highly you regard your subscribers and your readers, that you are putting yourself through that personal pain. So thank you, Burnsie, for your dedication.
Well, I learned from you when you told me.
Please don't be late to our pregame.
Lad, when you said not all heroes wear capes, just ask Justin Gaard.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do for people.
Yeah, that's dedication. do not be late to the Oak Street stage because we're running a really tight ship on Saturday morning. So I'm going to need you to be there on time.
Hot.
We'll make some adjustments. I can actually make some adjustments and have you later. So we'll talk about that offline. Great show this week, guys. It's fun. Like we said, I like when the Gophers have a night game, not like Burnsie, and I like when they don't have a game because you can actually watch all the other games. And there were some great games to talk about, and obviously we spent the majority of this episode talking about other things rather than Gopher football. So read Chip's piece on Daniel Jackson at StarTribune.com. Read everything that Burnsie puts out at GopherIllustrated.com. Don't forget, 11 a.m. kick. Go to Jack's Cafe, jackscafe.com. You could go to the game, have a nice late lunch, watch some college football in the bar at Jack's Cafe on Saturday afternoon. You got the Iowa game. There was the other good 2:30 game that we talked about too. Now I can't remember what it was, but I'm sure it was great. And do all of that at Jack's Cafe. Just pull up to the bar or make your reservations at jackscafe.com. And we'll talk to you next week on the Parent is Bear podcast.